Virgo, 4 days ago, the universe rewrote your destiny in silence. Today, that silence breaks. If you felt lighter, lost, or like a door just quietly closed behind you, this is why. And what happens next could change your entire August. For the last few weeks, something has felt off. Not bad, not wrong, just off, in that quiet way only a Virgo would notice, while everyone else missed it completely. Maybe you've been sleeping strangely, falling asleep too easily, then waking at 3 a.m. for no reason at all. Maybe your usual sharpness, the thing people rely on you for, has felt just slightly out of reach, like trying to read fine print through fog. Maybe you've caught yourself replaying a conversation from months or even years ago, wondering why it's surfacing again right now. None of that was random. Maybe you felt a strange urge to clean things out, deleting old messages, clearing a closet you hadn't touched in years, quietly unfollowing people who drain you without ever really knowing why tonight was the night you finally did it. Small, almost administrative impulses that, looking back, were never really about the closet at all. They were rehearsals for a bigger release your soul already knew was coming. You are one of the most perceptive signs in the entire zodiac. You notice the crack in the wall before anyone else realizes the whole house is shifting. And on some level, buried under the to-do lists and the self-doubt and the endless analyzing, you have known for weeks that something enormous was building. You simply didn't have the language for it yet. Here is some of that language. On June 29th, Mercury, your ruling planet, the planet that governs your very mind, slipped into retrograde in the sign of Cancer. For over 3 weeks, the way you process the world got scrambled on purpose. Old memories resurfaced, conversations you thought were finished, reopened. Plans quietly fell apart, only for something better to almost silently take their place. Then, on July 23rd, Mercury turned direct again. Your ruling planet, the one that governs how you think, speak, and understand your own story, began moving forward. Not fast, not obvious, but forward. Around the same time, Jupiter, the planet of expansion and luck, moved into Leo, the sign that sits directly behind you on the wheel, the one you release right before your own season begins. And then, last night, the sky delivered its loudest message yet. A full moon in Aquarius, illuminating everything you've been avoiding, forcing a decision you've been quietly postponing for months. You didn't imagine any of it. Every sleepless night, every wave of unexplained emotion, every "why am I thinking about that again" moment, it was the sky rearranging itself around your soul. And Virgo, this matters more than you realize, because for the past year and a half, your sign has been sitting on one of the most sacred, most closely watched points in all of astrology. Something enormous ended there 4 days ago. In a moment, I'm going to show you exactly what that means and why it explains almost everything you felt this month. Stay with me. What exactly is a karmic cycle, and why should a logical, detail-oriented Virgo care about something so intangible? Let's make it simple, without dumbing it down, because you deserve the real explanation, not just a vibe. In astrology, there are 2 invisible points in the sky called the lunar nodes, the North Node and the South Node. They aren't planets, they're mathematical points, the exact places where the moon's orbit crosses the sun's path. For thousands of years, astrologers have called this axis the truest map of the soul, where you're being pulled to grow and what you're finally ready to release. Here is the part most Virgos watching this don't fully know yet. Since January 11th, 2025, the South Node, the release point, the karmic exit door, has been sitting in Virgo, your sign, not adjacent to it, not nearby, in it. For 18 months, the entire collective has been using Virgo as its lesson. Every person on this planet has been quietly asked to release control, perfectionism, over-analysis, the belief that worth has to be earned through effort and flawlessness. And you didn't get to watch that lesson from a distance the way other signs did. You got to live it, amplified in your own body, your own relationships, your own inner monologue at 2 a.m. That exhausting instinct to double-check everything. The inability to rest until the list was finished. The quiet fear that if you weren't useful, you weren't lovable. That wasn't just being a Virgo. That was 18 months of the entire zodiac's karmic curriculum running directly through you. This is also why the last year and a half may have felt heavier for you than for almost anyone around you. Other signs had their own lessons, quieter ones, but yours was written into the sky itself, playing out in real time, whether you understood the astrology behind it or not. On July 26th, 4 days ago, that axis finally moved. The South Node left Virgo and entered Leo. The North Node left Pisces and entered Aquarius. The chapter that had your sign at its exact center closed. This is what the karmic cycle ends actually means, not a metaphor, a literal, trackable, 1,000 years documented shift in the sky, one that happened days ago, right as you likely felt that strange, unshakable sense that something had finally let go. Then last night, the sky turned the volume all the way up. A full moon in Aquarius, arriving within 72 hours of the North Node's own entrance into that exact sign. Full moons illuminate. This one landed almost on top of your brand new karmic growth point, demanding you look directly at who you're becoming next. So when you woke up this morning feeling like the ground had shifted slightly under your feet, it had. You are not imagining this, Virgo. You are living through the final hours of one of the most defining cycles of your life and the opening hours of a new one. The question isn't whether this is real. The question is whether you'll recognize it in time to walk through the door it just opened. The test you already passed. Really think back to who you were 18 months ago, around January of last year. Chances are you were exhausted in a way you couldn't fully explain. Not lazy tired, soul tired. The kind of tired that comes from being the reliable one in every room, the one who remembers the birthdays, catches the errors, holds the plan together while everyone else gets to fall apart. Virgo, your gift has always been devotion, the quiet, unglamorous kind that rarely gets applauded. But for the past 18 months, with the South Node sitting directly in your sign, that gift got twisted into something heavier. You started confusing your worth with your usefulness. You started believing love had to be earned through effort. That rest was something you'd deserve later, once everything was finally, perfectly handled. That was the test, not one anyone announced. The kind of test the universe designed specifically for the sign that will overanalyze everything except its own pain. Here's what most people watching this don't know yet. You passed it. Maybe not gracefully. Maybe you passed it crying at 2 a.m. or quietly walking away from a situation you'd defended for months, or finally saying no to a request you would have said yes to a year ago without thinking twice. Maybe it looked like letting the apartment stay messy for one whole weekend and surviving it. Maybe it looked like asking for help instead of quietly resenting no one offering it. Growth rarely looks like the movies. Sometimes it looks like a breakdown that was actually a breakthrough wearing a disguise. The proof is in the discomfort you've been feeling lately. Real karmic completion doesn't feel peaceful at first. It feels disorienting because the identity you built around the old lesson has to loosen its grip before the new chapter can take hold. If you felt less patient with people who drain you, less willing to shrink yourself just to keep the peace, that's not you losing yourself. That's you finally arriving. For 18 months, the old pattern asked, how much can you give before you break? The new pattern, activating right now this week, as the South Node settles into Leo and the North Node moves into Aquarius, asks something entirely different. What do you actually want now that survival isn't the only goal? That question might feel unfamiliar, maybe even a little frightening. For a sign so devoted to being needed, wanting something purely for yourself can feel almost selfish. It isn't. It's the entire point of what just closed. The South Node in Virgo was never designed to punish you. It was never a punishment at all, even on the nights it felt like one. It was designed to strip away every version of you that existed to be useful, so the version of you that exists to be whole could finally step forward. That version is closer than you think. Let's talk about exactly how it's about to announce itself. Everything is about to feel lighter. Not easier, lighter. There's a difference. Over the next few weeks, expect the atmosphere of your life to shift in ways that are subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. This is what soul transformation actually looks like. Not fireworks, not overnight miracles, but a steady, undeniable realignment between who you are and how you're living. With Mercury now direct after 3 weeks retrograde in Cancer, expect conversations that have been stuck to suddenly move. A text you've been dreading might finally get answered. A misunderstanding might resolve without the confrontation you were bracing for. Your own thoughts should start feeling less like static and more like signal, clearer, sharper, more like a mind you actually trust. Jupiter is currently moving through Leo, the sign that sits directly before yours, the one you release right before your own season begins. And notably, the South Node just arrived there too, on the exact same territory. That makes Leo a strange kind of pressure point right now. Expansion and release happening in the same place at the same time. Don't be surprised if the next chapter asks you to say the hard thing out loud, post the honest caption, have the conversation you've rehearsed 100 times in the shower but never actually started. Meanwhile, the North Node's arrival in Aquarius is quietly rewriting the whole collective's growth edge, including yours. Aquarius doesn't care about being liked. It cares about being true. For the next 18 months, the entire zodiac is being nudged away from performing perfection and towards something far more radical, showing up exactly as you are, imperfect and visible, trusting that belonging was never something you had to earn. This is the soul transformation this video's title promised. Not a single dramatic moment, but a slow turning of the compass your entire life has been oriented around. You may notice it first in small ways. A friendship that quietly fades because it was built on old you, the one who overgave. Sudden clarity about a job, a relationship, or a living situation that no longer fits who you're becoming. A pull toward creativity, spontaneity, even boldness, traits Virgo rarely leads with, but one's about to become impossible to ignore. Don't resist it. Don't analyze it into stillness, which, be honest, is exactly what you're tempted to do right now. This shift doesn't need your permission. It only needs your attention. Because here's the truth beneath everything covered so far. Karmic cycles don't end, so life can go back to normal. They end so you can stop returning to versions of yourself that were only ever meant to be temporary. You were never supposed to stay the person who could survive anything. You were always meant to become the person who finally chooses something, on purpose, for no reason except that it's true. That person is arriving, and the universe is about to leave you unmistakable proof. Signs from the universe to watch. For over the next 72 hours, pay close attention. The universe rarely announces itself with one obvious sign. It tends to repeat itself gently until you finally notice the pattern. Here's what to watch for. Numbers that seem to follow you. Not just once, but repeatedly, in places too specific to dismiss. 1111 on a clock you glance at by accident. A total that lands on matching digits at checkout. A house number, a mile marker, a notification badge that keeps landing on the same sequence. In numerology, repeating sequences like these are often read as confirmation, the universe's way of saying, yes, you're on the right path, keep going. Conversations that arrive at exactly the right moment. A stranger who says the one sentence you needed to hear. A song that plays the second you're silently asking yourself a question. An old friend who reaches out after months of silence, right as you were thinking about them. These aren't coincidences stacking up by accident. They're what happens once your energy finally clears enough to receive what's been trying to reach you. Dreams that feel unusually vivid, especially ones involving people from your past, water, doors, or keys, classic symbols of transition and release. If a dream lingers in your mind for hours after waking, that's not nothing. That's your subconscious processing the exact ending we've been discussing this entire video. An unexplainable pull towards something, a place, a class, a hobby, a person, that makes no logical sense and that you can't quite justify to your very logical mind. Follow it anyway. Virgo, you have spent so long needing a reason before you allow yourself to want something. This new chapter is asking you to want first and understand later. Animals and small moments of nature showing up in ways that feel oddly timed. A bird landing somewhere unusual and staying just a little too long. A butterfly crossing your path on a day you badly needed, a reason to believe things were changing. These small, brief crossings have been treated as messages from beyond across nearly every culture in human history, and whether you take them as literal or symbolic, their timing is rarely nothing. And perhaps the clearest sign of all, a sudden physical sense of relief. Your shoulders dropping, your jaw unclenching. A breath that finally goes all the way down for the first time in longer than you can remember. That's not just relaxation. That's your body registering before your mind catches up that the weight you've carried for 18 months has genuinely, finally lifted. When these signs show up, and they will, likely within days, maybe even hours, don't dismiss them as coincidence. Don't over-explain them, which, again, is the very habit this cycle is asking you to release. Simply notice. Simply say thank you. And simply take one small action that reflects the person you're becoming rather than the person the last 18 months asked you to be. That single action, however small, is how you close this chapter on purpose instead of just watching it close around you. The sky already made its move, Virgo. Now it's your turn. Before you go, I want to ask you something. If any part of this felt like it was speaking directly to you, the exhaustion, the strange dreams, the sense that something just quietly ended, I want to hear about it. Comment the one word that describes what you're releasing right now. Just one word. I read every single comment, and honestly, this community teaches me more about how these cycles actually show up in real life than any textbook ever could. If this video found you at exactly the right moment, consider subscribing. I'm walking through every sign's transformation this season, and Virgo, your story is far from finished. And if you know another Virgo who's been unusually quiet, unusually tired, or just unusually different lately, send them this video. They might need to hear it as much as you did today. The cycle ended. What you build next is entirely up to you. I'll see you in the next one.